moments ago, and I've never in all of my career in the bush and all of the hours spent out here, I have never ever seen anything quite like that. I've never seen hyena attacking one another to that degree. I've never seen a hyena in such a desperate condition as the one with that wounded ear. And let's hope that it doesn't receive another beating now. We are going to stop and show you the state of this hyena now. So again, if you are a sensitive viewer, you may want to turn your head for this. This hyena is certainly going to lose its left ear. Imagine the pain it's in. Like I said earlier, it's also got terrible, terrible wounds on its back left foot. And I'm guessing that a lot of that back pad and toes have been ripped off. Hello to Chimera, and I sadly do not know the answer to your questions. Will they kill it or will they let it die? If they wanted to kill this hyena, it would be very easy. For the 5 adults that are here, let alone these 3 sub-adults that are all sniffing around it now, but the 5 adults plus these 3 sub-adults would be no match for this one hyena. And that's why it's just sitting here, hoping that they do not actually stick through with their attack and their assault, but we don't understand why. And it's important to remember that so anyway, like I said, I'm not too sure why this hyena has caught itself on the wrong side of the fence, but what we must remember, and even though this is hard to watch, animals are very tough, and it could very, very well recover from these injuries. So it's not dire straits, even though it appears that way now for this hyena. I have seen many hyena in my career running around with only one ear, and once even one with no ears. So they can recover from these injuries, and let's hope that this one does. But also, we don't know if this hyena was being a criminal, maybe trying to attack the hyena cub from the den where we've just been. We couldn't solve that puzzle as to why that cub wasn't coming out of its den. And maybe this was the reason why. Very, very hard to say though. But this individual may have perpetrated some kind of a crime to receive this punishment. Maybe not. Maybe it was just unlucky in the wrong place at the wrong time. Let's see if it tries to move here. Yeah, it looks like it's going to. Oh no. Yeah, okay, it's back. Its back foot has been completely broken. So I'll take back what I've just said. This hyena is in dire straits. And without the ability to run and move effectively, the key strength of hyenas being able to move huge distances, it's going to have a very, very rocky road to recovery. It looks like its back foot has been absolutely shattered, and as it tried to stand down onto it, you saw it give way completely there. More hyenas coming in here. Hello to Laura. Laura's just mentioned that she didn't know that hyena fought one another. Laura, we very seldomly ever see fights happening out here in nature, but all of the animals will compete with one another just as we as humans will compete with one another. Lions will fight lions, leopards will fight leopards, and hyena will fight hyena. Now what's interesting is watching this individual walk past, look closely, you'll see it too has even sustained some injuries. So it wasn't a one-sided battle, and maybe just maybe, that this is where a territorial warfare or war took place between many hyena from two clans. And maybe the Djuma clan was the successful clan to win, but one soldier from the neighboring clan got left behind. Look at those wounds. I mean, that's a two-sided fight, that, and I think we are sitting in the middle of a battle zone from last night, and sadly the losing team has probably lost and left behind one of their clan members, which is the individual that we can see very, very wounded here. And again, we don't know the exact whereabouts of where the territories begin and end, but I've always had a feeling that the area that we're in now has been kind of one of those boundaries between our clan and the neighboring clan that will operate in the Buffalo's Hook and Manyaleti Reserve, which is to the north of us. I'm going to reposition the vehicle quickly again so we can show you a better view of what's going on all around us here. Not easy stuff, and like I said, I know a lot of you may not be enjoying this, but it is really interesting, and I'm not enjoying it either. My heart is obviously feeling huge desperation and sorrow for this wounded individual, but it's our job simply to spectate out and try and understand these animals a bit better. And I'm certainly not planning on going anywhere right now. I did mention earlier that I've never ever seen anything like this between hyena. I've seen wild dog fighting with hyena several times. Lions chasing hyena, hyena chasing leopard, but to see interaction between hyena like this is very, very unique. And even though it is hard to watch, we are all very, very privileged to be experiencing and witnessing this, because again, we are very seldom out to experience these rare phenomenons, even the gory ones that are quite sad and hard to watch, can provide us with very important information regarding the species. But yeah, I'm fairly confident what happened here was a territorial warfare last night between two different clans, one of which sadly lost, and the clan that lost appears to have left behind one individual here. Jessica, I agree with you completely. I take back my comments earlier saying that I don't think that this hyena was in dire straits. I didn't realize how bad its foot was wounded. But as all of you saw there, it's going to battle to move. Hello to Gubawala, and do I think any of its clan members could be nearby? Even if they are Gubawala, they would have heard the calls, that desperation howl that we all saw, and that desperation howl did not get answered. And if its clan members are close enough to hear and simply didn't respond, I don't know, maybe they are too far away to hear. But the bottom line is that if all of them were here last night and lost the battle, it's unlikely that they're all going to come racing back to try and rescue this one after receiving a beating last night. So it's not looking promising. How far the other clan could be away, I'm not too sure. We sadly cannot traverse further north here, and therefore we've only got very limited information on the one clan that we do get to see. I've never once in the year that I've been here seen hyena interacting that could have been from different clans. According to Barbara, and thanks for the question you've just sent through, it's a good one. Sadly, the answer may not be what you're wanting to hear, though. Barbara suggested that if this hyena could somehow scramble back and limp back to its clan's den site, would there be a chance that they would bring it meat and help nurture it back to recovery? Highly, highly unlikely, Barbara. To dens for cubs, let alone for adults, so that doesn't happen very often. And the competition between adults and the tough nature of being out here often suggests that older or weakened animals will rather be left to die than to slow down the clan or the pride. And it would make more sense to invest food and energy into young hyena members or young clan members that are going to, in all likelihood, be able to contribute to the clan in the future, as opposed to taking a gamble and trying to nurture back a very wounded and sick older hyena. So that's my guess. I could be wrong, but I'm fairly certain that it would get very little attention or help in terms of food and care and support if it did make it back to the den. Even with lions, which are, of course, a different animal to the hyena, but they will not look after other lions that are wounded. They'll simply carry on with the pride's best interests, not the individuals. And we don't understand the complexities as to why exactly this battle went down. Maybe that was a villain that we saw. And it can be easy to feel sorry, I guess, for a villain once you see him all beaten up and bullied, but you don't know what that hyena may have done, he or she may have done, to receive that beating. Wait here and watch the victorious hyena stroll past us. First, I think it's the first one. I'm not too sure how many have moved off already, but there are certainly some coming straight towards us. Hello, Rhonda in Georgia. Good question. How far away are we from the den site that these individuals are currently using? And as far as I'm aware, Rhonda, we're about a mile away as the crow flies. So that would be my guess as to the direction to the den. It's in the kind of central parts of Djuma, and we are now on the kind of central part but northern boundary. So we center but northern boundary of Djuma, as opposed to slap bang in the center. Where are the other hyena moving? I did see a glimpse of one earlier, but I guess that means that they are kind of heading back in that general direction. So if they continue at this speed, they'll probably be back at that den in about half an hour or so. And I feel like one or two adults may have already started moving in that direction. Hello to Gilly in Milwaukee, as well as Gubawala, both interested in the prospects of this wounded hyena being euthanized, because its outlook is looking very bleak. And it certainly won't have anything to do with us in terms of the decision making, thankfully, because it is a tricky decision to make. How far we as humans decide to interfere or not in animals' best interests is tricky. Awesome.
back screen in that exciting hyena action that you're busy seeing at the moment. As you'd well imagine, out here we do have these difficulties from time to time, especially on a cloudy day like this. Myself and Andrew are doing a slow patrol of the boundary. We're on cheetah cut line at the moment, and I have heard some reports coming through the Game Drive channel that there are wild dogs pretty close to our boundary as well. So although they're sleeping at the moment, I'm hoping that with the cold weather they get going and we get to see them. So we're going to be slowly making our way down this road, seeing what we can see. As to what happened to those elephant that we were busy tracking, to be honest, I don't actually know. It looks like that their tracks went north from where we last saw them into that very thickly wooded block around Vuyatela Camp, which is difficult for us to access in a vehicle. A lot easier to access on foot, but quite difficult in a vehicle. And I'm hoping that they come out either on Buffels or Cutline or come down to Gari Pan to come and have a drink at Pete's Pond. So for those of you with access to the Gari Dam Cam or the Vuyatela Dam Cam, keep your eye open. And you might see an elephant herd popping out there at some point. Let's have a look and see. In Los Angeles is asked on elephants while we're busy having a look for this woodlands kingfisher that's busy shouting at us from his tree here somewhere. How long do elephants live for? They live for between 60 and 80 years, and that is determined by their diet. So in areas where they have a softer diet, they live for a bit longer than in areas where their diet is a little bit more rough. And I'll go into that in a second. But have a look at this woodland kingfisher. As he's singing his heart out at the moment, he probably won't stick around for long. They arrived a couple of weeks ago, all the way from Central Africa. And it takes them about 2 or 3 weeks for them to calm down enough for us to actually have a look at them like this. There he flies off. Wasn't going to stick around for too long, but at least they are starting to get a little bit more relaxed with us. They are starting to allow us to view them. When they get back from the Central Africa, because it's so thickly wooded and so depopulated there, they don't actually see people, and so cars and people for them for the first 2 weeks create a little bit of confusion, and they're quite tough to get close to. But as summer progresses, these birds will hunt around the car even. They get so relaxed with cars and so habituated to them and people, they actually become a real delight. One of the few treasures to have out here. But right back to your question there, Tana. So elephants will get anywhere from about 40 to 60, sometimes 80 years old. All dependent on their diet, because elephants have 6 sets of teeth through their life, or 6 sets of molars through their life, and their diet wears the teeth down. And when they get to their last set of teeth, depending on where they are, if they're in a desert and they're eating a lot of rough, hard woods, then their teeth wear down very quickly, and they lose their teeth and they lose their ability to feed themselves, and therefore they slowly starve to death. Or if they're in a very swampy place, Lower Zambezi, somewhere where they are in a delta somewhere, and the vegetation that they're eating is very soft, that last set of teeth lasts them a longer time. And of course, the more they have teeth, or the longer they have teeth, the longer they can live for, the longer they can feed themselves for. So they're one of those animals that it's quite difficult to judge exactly how old they get. Here in the Kruger National Park, around about 45 to 55, with the odd exception going to about 60, is what I've read for the Kruger National Park. So the area that we're in at the moment, anywhere from 45 to 60 years old, is the average lifespan for an elephant out here. So down to their teeth there, Tana, they haven't invented false teeth for elephant just yet, and even if they would, it would be quite difficult to put them in, because unlike our teeth, which grow from the top of our mouths here down, elephant teeth grow from the back of their mouths forward and are constantly being pushed forward against their tusks by the teeth at the back. So as the teeth wear out, as they're busy moving forward, they're also being compressed against the tusk of the elephant and are being pushed out of the mouth that way. So one tooth doesn't slot in like ours would, they are slot in from the side, which is quite bizarre to think. They're very different to how you would imagine teeth to be replaced in a mouth. And if you think about it, even different to how sharks would be. So we get teeth doing this, elephants get teeth doing this, and sharks get teeth that fat forward. But on all of that stuff, back to the teeth that Scott has been with the whole day. He seems to have got his signal back around the hyena, and we'll carry on looking for these wild dogs. Catch up with you later.
So again, warnings for some graphic visuals here. This wounded hyena, as you can see, is trying to move, and it will be able to do a decent job at moving on 3 legs. We just don't know the injuries it's sustained on its other legs and the rest of its body. But as you can see, it's making decent progress, but it is not in good shape at all. This poor thing. That ear is just wrenching my soul out. Sorry, it's coming right up to us as if it almost thinks we can help it, but we can't. We can't help you. Its back foot is absolute jelly. Oh, sorry. You are not in good shape, are you? Like I said again, not easy, but at least it is on the move. Oh no, that back foot is just too much. It's been completely torn apart. And I have seen animals survive from the worst of injuries, but this is absolutely next level. Now I'm guessing that this is the sub-adult following its mother back to its rightful home. Hard to say though, and I just can't be certain as to what is going on here. But the fact that one sub-adult is following the adult back indicates to me that it's more likely a female than a male. And I guess that will answer your question, Raisa, in Finland, whether this could be a nomadic male trying to establish itself into a clan. I feel that this is a mother with a cub following it, and fairly strongly about that. And males, from what I'm told, tend to not get hugely physical and ferocious when fighting with one another or when trying to get into another clan. But it's the females who lack the power and the aggression and are often the most aggressive. So looks like a war between females, and the direction that this female is heading in is in an easterly direction. Now, again, we don't know where every border of every clan starts and ends, and I'm not too sure where exactly it's heading off to. Certainly going to keep an eye on it for as long as we can. That's really interesting stuff to be involved in, even though it's hard to watch. It is important for us to try and keep track as much as possible as to what continues to go down here. mother to a smaller cub, not just the sub-adult that we can see it moving with now. What would be the outcome for that cub? Well, probably at this rate it's not looking hugely promising, Joel, but you just can't be certain. You don't know what wild animals will be able to tolerate and how resilient they will be. But Joel, yeah, tricky one to answer. If its mother dies, well then it too will face a similar fate, will starve. It's unlikely that the queen or another hyena will try and look after it from the clan, unlike animals like wild dogs. Well, this is interesting. It's heading straight back into Djuma. Look at that poor foot dragging along the ground. So maybe it was an inter-clan dispute. I mean, judging by the direction that she's heading in, she's heading straight back into Djuma. And this poor old cub probably doesn't know what to do to console its adults. And the fact that this cub was tolerated by all the other hyena members, but its mother wasn't, is just hard to understand. You know, you'd think, we get told that within hyena clans and society, a cub will adopt the same kind of heir to the throne that its mother would have. So if its mother is a queen, it too will become a queen. If its mother's low ranking, it too will be low ranking. And it's kind of like the royal family in various countries. Regardless of the actual strength of the leader, they will still be leader. They get born into it and you become king. You just have to wait your turn. Now, that is the case with hyena to a degree, but occasionally I think what changes is that you will sometimes get an individual who has enough of the hierarchy and will try and upstage or upthrow or overthrow a current queen. So that's what may have happened here. Sure. Horrible business now it's having to off-road, which is going to be 1,000 times harder than moving down these open roads. But half of me is relieved by the fact that it has finally now moved off into some thick bush, because I'm not too sure how much longer I could have stayed here, to be honest. Oh, it's tough out here, it really is. And we very, very seldom get to see actually how tough life can be. And Anne's brought up an interesting point. She's wondering whether the drought experience that we're having at the moment has contributed to what we're seeing here. And Anne, I don't think so. If anything, a drought is favorable conditions for predators, because it means lots of weakening prey. Not much good food means older and weaker animals, or youngsters as well, will be easy pickings for all of the predators. And what's unique about the drought scenario in the Sabi Sands is that even though we are experiencing a drought and the water holes are dry, the natural water holes are dry, and a lot of the vegetation is drier than it normally would be, there still are artificially pumped water points which help not only the predators, but the predators are the main, they'll gain the most out of them because they only need water to drink. They don't need their food to be watered like the herbivores do. So, whereas both hyena, look here, it looks like they may have found a bit of a safe haven for the time being. There's a termite mound up here. And you wonder what this adult's going to do now, whether it's going to try and seek refuge in there. Molly and Lucy, as I said earlier, I'm not too sure why the young cub was not attacked and why it was only the adults. It's a mystery to me, because that cub, like I said, would have the same kind of hierarchy in the clan as its mother would. You get born into your hierarchical structure, which is pure luck. You are either born a queen or born a pauper. But in this case, parent and cub should hold the same hierarchy. But the cub is absolutely unscathed, untouched, and was running alongside those other two cubs. I'm fairly certain it was only 3 sub-adults, rather is probably a better term for these individuals. I'm guessing about a year in age. But could be a stray a couple of months either side of that. To Smile. Smile's interested to know how long can hyena go without food, and probably about a week at the most before they really start needing their next meal. And as we can all tell, the state that this female is in is not a good one. Now, she thankfully doesn't necessarily have to hunt in order to be successful. If she is lucky, she could stumble across an animal that's died during these drought conditions of some kind of sickness or malnourishment, or she could find an easy kill where other clan members that she could miraculously make friends with again, I'm not sure, may chase off a leopard and they'll get an easy meal there. So there is hope for her, but it's not great. It really isn't. And what the future will hold for this poor hyena, I cannot be certain of, but at this stage, it doesn't look hugely bright. Again, though, I will continue to say it because miracles do happen, and I guess some things that we may, as a human, may consider a miracle, a wild animal may consider to be just a regular recovery, and they are incredibly tough animals. Now, Peggy P is interested to know, is that foot possibly going to get gangrene? And the way it's dragging along the ground and the extent of the damage that has been done to it, it looks like it could very well become infected and become gangrenous, but hard to say. Back to a question earlier, and I can't remember who asked it. I think it was 2 of you asking for updates as to whether the Sabi Sands will intervene and possibly euthanize this hyena at any given stage. I'm not too sure. I've never been in a scenario like this. My initial thoughts would be that it's not likely that they will help. And that was Gubawala and Gilly in Milwaukee that were asking about the likelihood of this animal being euthanized. And usually the policy is, and the protocol is, unless a human has caused that animal pain and suffering, we let Mother Nature take its course. And even though that can be hard in certain scenarios, like this one, I think it is the best thing to do, because even though now we all feel that this hyena is doomed, even though there's this small chance, is it not better for us to leave it with that small chance? Because I think the main thing that we all need to understand is that nature was better before we arrived, and everything we've done since we've been on the planet has been negative for wildlife and animals. And even though now we may think we are helping by intervening, generally the best rule is to put your hands up, walk away, and let Mother Nature take its course, especially when it's been an animal-on-animal encounter. That's, what Mother Nature had planned out. So I think in all likelihood it will be left alone, but can't be certain, and that's not a decision that is up to us to make, thankfully. I wouldn't want to be the one making those decisions. Also, I mean, you can look at it so deeply, Gilly and Gubawala, that by intervening, yes, you may be helping this one individual and this one species, this one hyena that's having a bad time. But will you be helping the other animals further down the line, the decomposers that could be feeding on it, the bataleur that may not have fed for many days, or the vulture that may not have fed for many days? Are you not going to be interfering and causing a ripple effect of things that Mother Nature did not have planned simply because you wanted to help this one? And if it was euthanized, I don't know if it would still be fit to be consumed by other animals, or if it would have to be removed from the ecosystem. But even from a point of it dying naturally in point A, where it may feed a desperate vulture, or in point B, where it may feed something else, we don't know, and that's why it's best for us to not get involved. Well, it looks like it's got stationary here, and I think we can continue on. I'm interested to go back actually to the den site, which is just down this road where we started off the hyena action this morning. I'm just going to give Andrew a quick update on the radio. Oh, perfect, he's right behind me. Andrew, the very badly wounded female and one sub-adult are lying up just on the southern side of that termite mound. Her back left foot is jelly. She can't walk on it. The left knee is basically falling off. Okie dokes, we're gonna send you across to Steph for an update on how his morning is going. I hope he has some bright and cheerful news after what has been quite a gloomy and tough sighting to stomach. See you later.
I can't believe the feedback that I'm getting through my earpiece from Final Control about that hyena sighting that you've been with, Scott. I mean, I just find it absolutely fascinating. I mean, what incredible behavior to witness today. Myself and Andrew are slowly dying of hypothermia as we drive down Buffelshoek-Katlan. It seems to have gotten degrees and degrees colder as the day's been going on. But not too bad. It's been quite nice. We've seen a lot of elephant activity, or signs of elephant activity. No elephant themselves, unfortunately. And now what we're doing is we're just doing a slow circuit of the dams in the area, with Buffelshoek Dam our next port of call. The tracks of these illies that we've been seeing have all been pretty just isolated islands of tracks, with tracks bombshelling from there. I have a funny feeling that these illies were sleeping during the wet of yesterday afternoon there, or last night, and then moving out into the thick bush around these areas to go and feed. But we're actually just enjoying this wet day. In no time at all, I'm sure that this weather will be moving on and leaving us again in the sunshine. We got a nice question on spiders from Siberia Zoom. Hello, Siberia. And yes, the answer to your question is we do absolutely get black widow spiders here from the genus Lactrodectes. And we have the brown widow and the black widow here. The species that we find here is Indistinctus. That is the black widow spider. The Lactrodectes indistinctus is our one. Although I hear that you find widow spiders all over the world, all the way from Australia into America, and they all seem to be similarly toxic or poisonous or venomous, at least to us, at least anyway. And they've got a neurotoxin which could affect young children and people with heart conditions and very old people. For us, I'd say anywhere from 6 to about 80 years old, you definitely find a lot of pain at the bite site of a black widow spider. It's one of the most painful bites to experience out here. But black widow spiders are generally, you have to look for them to see them. The best place to look for a black widow is in actual fact underneath a chair, an outside chair, a garden chair. They really enjoy making their webs between parallel surfaces where they spin a very intricate web which consists of almost a bunch of trap lines that are trampolines. Now, how it works is insects walking on the bottom, on the floor, will trip one of these wires, and these wires will pull the insect off of the ground and suspend it in the air. At which point the spider comes walking along the top surface, reels in their catch, envenomates it, and then waits for it to die, and then encapsulates it in some silk, and then stores it to eat later, or larders it, as it's known amongst spiders. So a very, very specialized spider hunting in a very specialized environment. And you don't really find in the bush a lot of places where you have parallel surfaces in dark, moist places. It's almost entirely confined to rocky crevices and areas where you find a few rocks and broken down tree stumps. So not a very common spider to find out here is the black widow. And while we carry on checking the dams in the area and hoping that these wild dogs cross back into our traverse, Scott has arrived at our hyena den with some cubs that are there. Joy.
Well, there is some good news this morning, and that is that this mother still has a young little cub. Now, we can't see it at the moment, but it was wobbling about as we arrived here. It's just headed over the opposite side of the termite mound, so I'm sure it's still out and about. It's just difficult to us, or impossible for us to get a view from here unless we move all the way around, and by the time we move all the way around, the cub could well have done the same thing. So I think it is going to be in our best interest just to wait here for a moment or two. Well, I don't know about you guys, whether this hyena was at the scene of the crime with us earlier or not, I can't tell. It looked to me like there certainly was two individuals that could have been the mother. Oh, yeah, here we go. Maybe it didn't go around the other side of the den, and it just... Do you remember, Vim? Did it?
No, it did go over.
It did go over.
Yeah.
Oh, interesting. So maybe the burrows are interconnected. That's exciting news. Because earlier we weren't sure whether the burrows were interconnected, but VM confirmed that it definitely did walk over in the direction that it's heading in now, but then it popped up back through the same little burrow. Go ahead, Andrew. So I'm just chatting with Andrew on the radio quickly. Affirmative, I've just arrived and it is active, 1 adult, 1 youngster. This is more cute and cuddly behavior after the savage attack we saw hyena delivering to another hyena. Affirmative, Andrew. who knows what went down? I mean, that other hyena, the wounded hyena, is probably only a quarter of a mile away from us at the moment, where we last saw it, so not far away at all. And wouldn't it be wonderful to know what happened? The fact that we started our morning here with that interesting behavior where an adult, possibly not the mother of this little cub, came in, tried to kind of see what was going on, but the cub didn't come out. Now, maybe there's another adult that looks extremely similar to the mother we're looking at now, but for some reason the cub wouldn't come out. It was just letting off a high-pitched squeal. And Marilyn in California seems to think that the reason why the little cub didn't want to come out because it heard the commotion ensue last night, and there were some tracks of hyena running around and running away from this area as we came in first thing this morning. Now, we often see tracks of hyena running up and down roads as opposed to walking, but I guess last night's tracks may have been more applicable to some kind of a battle or a chase that may have happened in this area. Hello to Shell, and Shell's interested to know if there's any activity at the other den sites at the moment. And Steph is quite far away from there now. He's up in the northeastern corner of our property, I think at Buffelshoek Waterhole. But what we can maybe do, if you all want, is we can leave this den site and go straight across there and see what's going on. I don't think there'll be enough time for Steph to cover all that ground, so either we stay here or we go check the other den site. I would be very interested to go to the other den sites, and I'd actually prefer to do that. As cute as this cub is, it would be very interesting to see the adults and whether they have returned, and also get a closer look at the injuries that they may have sustained during the battle. I also have never actually been to that den since it has become active again. And as cute as this is, we have spent many hours here getting cuteness overloads with mother and cub, but we haven't been in a scenario where we can go to the other den and get some possibly very valuable information as to what's going on with the rest of this clan. And the fact that they're also enjoying a view out to the east facing away from us is possibly a sign that the other den site is the one where we should be right now. So Shell, let's go and have a look. Also, just such a relief that this little cub is alive. I was concerned a little bit earlier as to what was going on, and then when some of you came up with a great theory that it could be stuck in there, then I really started worrying. Happening on Djuma that we don't know about, and Arathusa for that matter. Haven't got an update from the Arathusa guards, so it's a bit complicated getting radio updates from them, not as easy as one would expect, so haven't got a clue what's going on there. Let's hope we haven't missed out on any action. But it would also be interesting to know what's been lurking about on Djuma last night, where Kudas, the female leopard. After rain and an overcast weather like this, it can be quite tricky to work out what's what and who's been where with regards to the tracks on the ground. Now, I chatted earlier and will reconfirm to Raisa that we don't have a clue if the two den sites on Djuma between these hyena are actually the same clan, or if it's different clans. I did mention earlier that I feel that it is probably one clan that's tolerating a kind of split of sorts. It's unlikely that two clans would have a den site so close to one another. It's probably 3/4 of a mile as the crow flies from one den to another. And that to me suggests that it's far, far too small to be in one hyena's territory. And maybe that's what's caused the fight. I mean, maybe this fight was between one clan, but because it's getting bigger, things are getting more complicated. And I guess that's applicable with most things in life. If you're trying to control 4 people, it's easier than controlling 400 people. And I guess the control within the clan may also be kind of dwindling or changing as we speak, hence that fight. The fact that the wounded female came back onto Djuma, not in the opposite direction, suggests to me that this could actually have been an inter-clan dispute, whereas initially when we were on the boundary there, on our northern boundary, I thought, well, there's a chance that this hyena's come from the north, got caught up, and the rest of its clans run back. But judging by the behavior we saw, that theory is kind of thrown out the window. So my thoughts are one clan. It'll be interesting to hear what Jamie and Brent and Stefan think. But the bottom line is, regardless of what any of us think may be the answer, what is actual truth is another story. And because we don't spend day in and day out with these animals, we don't know all the answers. And even the 6 hours we spend out here daily, it's not entirely with these hyena. So to be able to make conclusive, educated decisions and theories as to what's going on is basically close to impossible at this stage, in my opinion. In my opinion. Has summed things up very well. Such a emotional roller coaster it's been this morning. Curious morning, curiousness, sadness. It's just been an emotional, like you say, roller coaster with thoughts and feelings being torn all over the show. And I can assure you, especially if you are joining for the first time, it's very, very infrequent that we have a sighting that is so moving and so disturbing, if you could put it that way, in terms of the visuals we were seeing, in terms of the state of that poor wounded hyena. And in the year that I've been here, this is by very, very far, the most hardcore sighting I've had to deal with. So it's not a regular occurrence, but it is a good reminder that we are not in a zoo. This is raw, this is real. What you see is what you get, and we cannot plan what we are going to show you and when we are going to show it to you. And that is the beauty of being on the live safari. It can take you by surprise, I guess, all of us by surprise, this morning's events. But that's what makes it so real. And even though it can be hard, we must remember that we are privileged to be able to witness these things unfolding in real time, with no editing and nothing contrived or made up. What you see is what you get, and it is real, with no interference from us as humans. And that is very, very fortunate. Even when you're looking at things that are difficult to stomach, we are still lucky to be witnessing them. Now, the test of time. We are arriving at the den, or Philemon's cut line. Will anybody be here? Doesn't look like it at the outset. Like I said, I haven't been here since it's become active again, but there is a big hole on this side of the burrow that seems to be the most active, and there are no hyena there. I'm just going to stop up ahead here to show you the hole that I'm talking about. There's a couple of holes, but the larger one, which is just through the bushes on the right there, used to be the most active when I was last here, but things have changed since the clan has returned, or at least a portion of the clan has returned. Now, what may have happened is that adults may have come back, nursed their cubs for a few moments, the same adults we saw fighting earlier, who did look very much like the mothers of these cubs here. They may have come back, nursed the cubs, and then moved off to lick their wounds from last night, or maybe they've decided to go and lick their wounds first and deal with the cubs later. But no clear sign of any hyena in this area at the moment. Very happy that we came and looked though. This den did used to be active when I was last here. What was interesting was this tree that's fallen down used to be vertical. So this is there's a new look to this piece of real estate with the fallen down tree. And I think it just capsized with old age, or it could have been pushed over by an elephant. It does look like an elephant has actually fed on it. So then we'll show you now, there's a few branches, terminal branches that look to have been broken. There we go, you can see their red edges. So maybe an Ellie was the culprit who decided to capsize this tree in order to get to some of the sweet tasting canopy treats. Great stuff. Well, sadly no hyena here, but we are going to send you back to Steph, who's found another giant mammal for you. And from Scotty D showing you the marks of an elephant passage to us having finally found some of the elephants that we've been searching for. Andrew was beginning to doubt my ability to find some elephant. We came around the corner and lo and behold, we got 4 Ellies for you. Nice youngster that you're looking at the moment, the tusks just emerging from the top lip. Following his mom around, and it looks like we've got another youngster, another 2 more youngsters up there. I can't see any other elephant, although judging from the signs that we had here, to be honest, there should be more elephant around. What I'm going to try and do is try and get around. That Ellie looks like he's going to, I don't know what's happening over there. They really have been hammering the knob thorns here. As we've been driving, we've just been noticing slabs of bark that have been peeled off of nearly every knob thorn, every large knob thorn that we can see. And what you can see is this youngster just over here that is digging some roots out of the ground. And the bush is quite thick at the moment where we are. Using a foot to dig out the roots. Here comes another one charging through the bush here to come and see what he's got. And bullying his root away from him. You know, even though it's quite green at the moment and it looks quite good, these Ellies are going to take a little bit of strain. See, that one's just now bullied him out, stealing his root. Quite know how he's getting it on. He might go down onto his face to use his tusk. The moment he's using their feet and their toenails to try and kick out that root. Didn't quite get it, just got a little bit of a mouthful. And we're going to have to reposition here because they've just moved off into this very thick bush. But just to finish my comment on these Ellies at the moment, even though it looks quite green and it looks like there's a lot of food around at the moment, there really isn't. It really has been quite a difficult year so far. Where they should be eating a lot of grass, they are not actually eating a lot at all. We're going to go around this thicket. I'm sure we'll be able to get these Ellies again.
think the best bet for us is actually just to show you what they're doing to these knobthorns before we go re-find them again. Have a look at this tree on my right hand side. That is being ring barked by some elephant. You can see those tusk marks on the wood themselves, and then the bark was leveraged off by a tusk, and then what happened was they wrapped their trunk around the bark and just basically peeled it off all the way right to the tippy top almost of the tree. That's a good, I would say, 6 feet, 12 feet, 18 feet, about 20 feet off of the ground, 25 feet off of the ground. And then would have just basically popped it into their mouths and eaten it. And the reason for that is that the tree stores a lot of its nutrients in their bark and in their roots. And the elephants know that. And this time of the year, without being able to access that nutrients from the top of the tree, they would have to peel the bark off to get what they need. Now, I think let's try and go in here, Andrew. What do you think? I think it's going to be a bit hair-raising. I think we can actually access this from around the corner. I'm just going to go around the corner quickly and see if we can't get to the other side of this thicket and then come in from the bottom. Because to crash through here, I think is going to prove to be a difficult thing. And I'm getting glimpses of grey shadows through the bush. I think there are more than the 4 elephant that we saw there. I think we are going to be in luck. I think it's a fairly large herd. You can actually see the road in front of us is littered with branches that have been broken off of a herd. So if we go around the corner over here, if we are not going to be a bit luckier. A new viewer today, Josh in Missouri. Welcome, and I'm glad that you've joined the show and that you have had such an exciting morning. It's been an epic morning in actual fact. So what have we seen this morning was your question. How many different species of animals have I seen? We started off this morning with impala and zebra, and then we moved on to an eagle. I have then seen some buffalo, and I saw a great dacre, and I saw a waterbuck, and now I'm with some elephant. So I hope that answers the question. Pretty typical morning. You can expect to see 3 or 4 or 5 different species of antelope, and then your larger mammals, you can expect to see 2 or 3 larger mammals with a spattering of other things as well, from mongoose to birds, lizards, spiders. In the evening, some scorpions. I'm going to drive up the side of this termite mound because I want to get some height here. I want to see where these ellies are. I know it's going to be a bit sickening while Andrew tries and finds a level, but I've now driven up the side of the termite mound. I would do the same if I was on foot. This will give you a nice view of why we seem to have lost these elephants. Have a look at this thicket of trees around us. Basically impenetrable for even these mighty cars. And I'm just using my ears at the moment to see if I can find where these elephants have been going. So Sharon in Pittsburgh has asked if we do any maintenance on dam walls. Sharon, not really. Once the dams are built, they tend to last a few years, and then they'll either break down. What usually breaks them is a very large storm, where erosion actually eats away at the dam wall and it causes the dam to collapse. We don't really get dam walls or anything here damaged by elephant. Not that I've seen, at least, anyway. I'm hearing some elephant off to our right-hand side. Into this thick bush. I'm not hearing exactly where they are. I think, Andrew, we are going to have to go back to where we last saw them. Have a look at this thicket that we're driving around through here, folks. It's a special. Definitely way too thick for us to drive through. So that's why I wanted to try and see if I could go around. I still think we're going to try. Let's reverse back off of this Djuma map. Us busy listening for these elephants, Diane has asked, where do elephants trumpet from? Does the sound of the trumpet come from the trunk, or does the sound of the trumpet come from their mouth? And the sound of the trumpet comes from their trunk, because elephants' mouths are not attached to their trachea, so their mouth goes to their esophagus and their tummy, and their trunk goes to their trachea and their lungs, and they have a chamber that sits just above their, or just under their forehead in actual fact, where they can make a wide variety of different noises, elephants can. And one of the ones that we can hear is the elephant trumpet, which when it's directed at something else is astonishing. When it's directed at you or me is terrifying. And they make that noise by squeezing air straight out of their lungs, straight into this chamber, and then compressing the muscles there, which obviously force the air to come out in that massive squeal that they make. But elephants have got a very wide range of noises that they make. Everything from screams and trumpets all the way through to infrasonic rumbles that we can't even hear. Way too low for us to hear. Incredible variety of noises. Now I couldn't see anything from that termite mound. We're now going to the other side of this thicket and seeing if we can access this thicket from another area. I've lost sight of these ellies, but it doesn't matter. It looks like they were feeding. It looks like they were moving off here, having some lunch, which is all good for us. Bless you. Bless you. Andrew's just having a little bit of a sneeze attack. He seems to be all good. He's giving me the thumbs up that he's not going to expire right now. Right, so the elephants went into this thicket here where we are right now. We'll give it a one more bash. Trying to access it from the top over here and see if we can see them. Given ourselves a puncture, Mr. Andrew. So I'm told that Scott also has a puncture, and we've given ourselves a puncture on one of these sharp roots here, which what we'll do is we'll see if we can find these elephants before our puncture gets really bad, and then watch them. It seems like a slowish puncture. This time of year. Rudy in Louisville has asked a question that comes up very often, but one that I really enjoy answering. Rudy, to answer your question, about how safe are we? How can we drive around in these open cars when there are very many reports of people being attacked in safari parks just through their windows? You know, how can it be different? And really the easy answer is to say that animals in captivity absolutely don't behave the same as animals in an open environment like we have right here. Where we are right now is not a safari park. We've got 3.5 million hectare, which is close to 10 million acres worth of bush here, and animals have never ever been habituated to people in this place. This has been a wilderness area forever. It's not been a place where animals have been taken out and then put back in again. And in particular, even though this area is fenced, it is fenced on such a large scale that animals sometimes live their whole lives without seeing a single fence or even seeing people for that matter. And so as soon as animals realize that we're not out here to harm them, we don't hunt from vehicles here, we don't chase animals around from vehicles. I got a very long distance view of these elephants. Let me show you through the trees there. Can you see them, Andrew? As soon as these animals realize that we're not here to actually hurt them in any way, which we don't inside the Kruger National Park, they actually calm down and
Can't see him.
we can't show you this Ellie. It's probably about 300 or 400 yards away from us. I just got the tail in and an ear flap, and let me see if I can direct Andrew through. Go, carry on going right, Andrew. A little bit more, somewhere there. We've got another question through from Josh in Missouri. And I'll answer your question now, Josh. I just want to finish my my previous answer as to why we don't get attacked by animals here. When you do find animals attacking people in safari parks, animals in safari parks, so it's an unnatural environment. They're fed from vehicles, they have artificial food given to them by their caretakers. They definitely don't have freedom of movement. Quite often you have a large number of cats in a very small area, and what that does is it creates an unnatural environment. Then you go further compounded by adding people and cars filing through there, and sometimes people get up to some funny things. You know, people like to take pictures of animals doing unnatural things, and in particular we have a way that we want to always tap on the glass or make funny movements, throw animals pieces of food. And so animals associate vehicles in these areas with food, and what you don't want to do there is then have your window open, and that's where mistakes happen. People being associated as sources of food by animals always a threat because they're getting too close. But here in the natural environment, we don't have that. We absolutely are trying to respect animals and try and respect their space as much as what we can. And so you don't get into situations as often. And therefore, we are relatively safe in the open vehicles like we are now. Not 100%. I'd say we are about 50% safer. I'm quite certain that I'll be able to judge a situation as dangerous or not and be able to create some distance before we get into a situation where animals would jump into or onto the back of a car. I've been doing this now for 16 years. It'll be my 17th year next year, and I've never had an animal jump into the car, even though I've been next to lion and leopard and cheetah, wild dog, more times than I can even count. They've never done that, so it's whole times it never does happen, at least anyway. Right, now I think that we know exactly where these ellies are. I think let's see if we can get in there. The tire that we've got going steadily flatter and flatter at the moment doesn't seem to be at a point where we can't drive just yet. So let's carry on going. And then, Josh, to come back to your question, what's the biggest elephant that I've ever seen? Josh, the Kruger National Park is well known for having some of the biggest elephants in the world. And although it's not the biggest elephant. The biggest elephant that was ever shot, as far as I know, was in Angola, that weighed somewhere in the region of about 10 ton. I've definitely seen a couple of bulls in the Kruger National Park that approached the 6 to 7 ton mark quite easily. Enormous bull elephants, standing 3.5–4 meters tall at the shoulder, just able to dwarf us. And you can absolutely go and research some of the elephants in the Kruger National Park. Go and do yourself a favor and research the Magnificent 7 Kruger National Park. It's the 7 largest elephant that have occurred in the Kruger National Park in recent times. They are very well documented, and you'll find some fantastic archived footage, photographs, and some videos even of the Magnificent 7. They were all elephants in the Kruger National Park, and you should be able to get a very good idea of what elephants occurred here, what really big elephants occurred here. So Magnificent 7, Kruger National Park are some of the biggest elephants that have ever occurred here. You should be able to see some. Please, if you can, post some of the pictures that you've seen up on, I'm sure you could do it on Twitter, or you could do it on our Wild Earth's Facebook page for all of us to have a look at. I'm not exactly sure how all that works, since I'm a social media novice, but I'm sure you'll be able to do it. So if you want, share some of those pictures with the rest of our viewers. I'm sure they'll be interested to see what one looks like. Now, what we are going to do is, while Andrew and I try and find these elephants and also change this flat tire that we've got, is link you back over to Scott, who can keep you entertained while Andrew and I build up a sweat on this cold morning. So we'll catch up with you in a bit. See you later.
Well, happy that we managed to change our punctured tire whilst you're enjoying some time with Steph. And I wonder if this is a slow puncture or one that is going to have to be fixed before they return to camp. Either way, nice cool weather for changing tires. Not so enjoyable in the heat of the day, if it is bright and sunny as it normally is, or at least it has been most often this summer. Very hot days, but thankfully some cool weather, and not only cool but a little bit of moisture, not nearly enough, but I guess in the dire situation that we are in here regarding water, any little extra amount will help. Doesn't seem to have been any leopard tracks or lion tracks found on Djuma this morning as far as the radio waves go. Sounds like Aubrey's been further north, and Aubrey's one of the guides here at Djuma, and he has been searching for some lion further north of where we can go. Other than that, fairly quiet on the radios. Most people actually also only got mobile at around 6:30 or 7, so it's been a slow morning on safari for those out in these areas. And just a few minutes left, so I guess time to start recapping on what's on today. And if any of you have joined more recently, you would have missed out on some phenomenal viewing of these hyenas having a fight with one another. It was kind of a one-sided affair. It was one hyena who received all of the bullying that we got to see. I think it would have been a very different affair in the early hours of the morning or late last night, because there are a few hyenas running around that are wounded, not nearly as badly as the one that came off worst. Never seen it's a black screen. That's right. There's a young battalier soaring above us, and the stork you may have got a glimpse of in the background. It just disappeared out of shot. Interestingly, young battalier's tails are longer than the adult's tails, and if it is so kind as to swoop back into an open area, which I don't think it's going to do just yet. We'll be able to show you one more glimpse. But the tail becomes shorter as the bird becomes older, and the reason for that is that to fly with a very short tail for a bird would be an incredibly tricky situation, whereas to learn with a short tail and for it to get progressively shorter, it would become a lot easier. To Michael, who's wondering if we know where there are any eagles' nests and when are their mating seasons. It will vary slightly depending on the bird, but a lot of the birds of prey will nest at this time of the year during the summer bounty. Some in early summer, some in late summer. There's a Wahlberg's nest not far up this road. I don't think we are going to get there by the end of the safari. We also had a pair of African hawk eagles nesting off Central Road, but I think they've finished already. African harrier hawk off Vulture's Nest Road, where there's no vulture's nest, there's a harrier hawk nest. So yes, we know of a few eagles' nests, but sadly they are high up above us, and because we can't look into them, they understandably become not very interesting because we've got no idea what's happening inside them. But there are a few around, also a few vulture's nests. It's been a surprise safari and a unique safari where we captured some incredible footage of some very hard moments to watch, and let's all just hope that the wounded hyena does manage to have a miraculous recovery, or at least a swift ending to its career, either or, but it is in a tricky situation, and we will do our best to follow its progress, but it will be incredibly difficult to keep tabs on it. We will do our best though, and I'm not too sure who's going to be out this afternoon, but there will be some of us heading out on a safari, and we look forward to you to all join, spread the word, and well done to everyone involved. See you next time.